Founders Academy is a 3-part learning journey designed around the real stages of company building. Lesson 4. Defining the solution and creating a value proposition. If the problem is a spark, the solution is the flame, but only if it's simple. The learning objectives. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to understand what makes a minimum compelling product, turn a product into a clear, precise solution, design a value proposition that resonates deeply, not broadly, and distinguish between features and outcomes. Finally, you will be able to articulate your solution clearly in under 10 seconds. Most early-stage founders don't fail because they pick the wrong problem. They fail because they try to solve it in too many ways at once. I have seen founders who deeply understand the pain they're going after, but when it comes to defining the solution, everything gets fuzzy. The product becomes heavy, the roadmap becomes long, the explanation becomes complicated, and the value gets lost. There is a common belief that strong solutions are impressive, that they need to be comprehensive, technically elegant, or packed with features. In reality, the strongest early solutions I have seen are all small, sharp, and almost obvious in hindsight. They do one thing extremely well, and they make the value instantly legible to the customer. One of the most important mental shifts founders need to make at this stage is this. You are not building a product. You are delivering an outcome. Customers don't buy software, platforms, or features. They buy relief, speed, confidence, control, time, progress. I have watched founders describe their solution for 5 minutes and still leave people confused. Not because the product was bad, but because the founder was anchored to what they built, not what changed for the user. When founders talk about features, they're thinking inwards. When they talk about outcomes, they're thinking from the user's lived experience. The moment this clicks, everything simplifies. What to build, what to cut, how to explain it, and how to sell it all become clearer. You are building a solution. You are not building a feature. To get there, we'll work through some frameworks. The first framework is the minimum compelling product. Let's talk about the solution itself. Most founders are familiar with the idea of an MVP, but MVPs are misunderstood. I have seen MVPs that are bloated, expensive, emotionally exhausting to build. But what founders actually need early is not a minimum viable product, it is a minimum compelling product. An MCP is not a prototype, it's not a demo, and it's definitely not a feature list. It is the smallest version of your solution that delivers undeniable value to your customer. For a solution to qualify as an MCP, it needs to satisfy 3 things. First, it must solve the core problem directly, not adjacent problems or future ones. Second, it must require minimal engineering because speed and learning matter more than polish early on. And third, it must create a genuine wow moment where the user immediately understands why this exists and wants to use it again and again. Some founders delay launch for months because they were building things users didn't need. Others unlock traction with something almost embarrassingly simple because it delivered the outcome cleanly. This works. Compelling does not mean complex. It means focused and addressing the single problem. The second framework is the outcome pyramid. Once the solution is defined, the next challenge is how founders talk about it. This is where many founders lose people. I use a simple mental model for this called the outcome pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid are features. This is what the product does. Founders love this layer because it feels concrete and safe. In the middle of the pyramid are benefits, which explain what the feature enables. And at the top are outcomes, which explain how the user's life or work actually changes. What I see over and over are founders communicating almost entirely at the feature level. They list dashboards, integrations, workflows, tools. But great companies don't win because of what their product does. They win because of what it unlocks. Users don't care that something is automated. They care that they get their time back. They don't care that something is collaborative. They care that decisions happen faster. When you speak at the outcome level, your solution becomes memorable. When you stay at the feature level, your solution is interchangeable. Stay at that outcome level. The third framework is the 10-second value proposition. All of this leads to one critical test. If your solution is clear, you should be able to articulate it in under 10 seconds. Not just because attention spans are short, but because clarity compounds. A strong value proposition answers 3 questions quickly. The first, who is this for? The second, what problem are they encountering? And the third, what outcome do you deliver? If any one of those is missing, the message collapses. There's a simple formula I have seen work consistently. We help customer who struggle with problem achieve outcome without friction. I have watched founders dramatically improve investor and customer conversations just by tightening the sentence. When the value proposition is sharp, everything downstream improves, from product decisions to hiring to go-to-market. If it takes 2 minutes to explain what you do, something isn't clear yet. Here's an exercise for you. Pressure test your message. It's a simple exercise I encourage founders to do early. Write 3 versions of your value proposition. One that is outcome heavy, one that is pain heavy, and one that is differentiation heavy. Then test each version with 5 potential customers. Don't pitch, just observe. Watch where they lean in, where they get confused, and where they repeat your words back to you. Clarity is revealed in reactions, not compliments. This exercise doesn't just improve messaging, it sharpens the solution itself. At this stage, it's important to note that there are a few mistakes I see founders repeat consistently. The first is building too much, too early. Instead of solving the core problem clearly, founders try to anticipate every feature use case, and the product becomes heavy before it ever becomes useful. The what if question is not helpful at this stage. The second is describing features instead of outcomes. Founders explain what the product does, how it works, why it's interesting, but skip the part that actually matters to the user. What changes for them? When the explanation sounds more like documentation than impact, the value gets lost. The third is that I also see founders trying to be clever instead of clear. Novel language and complex positioning might feel differentiated, but clarity is what creates trust. If someone has to work to understand what you do, they won't remember it. The fourth is designing for edge cases too early. This is another common trap. Worrying about exceptions dilutes the experience for the core user, who actually matters right now. Finally, the fifth. Many founders carry multiple value propositions at once, hoping something sticks. That uncertainty shows up everywhere, in the product, their team, the message, their body language. When a solution is right and tight, it doesn't need to be defended. It explains itself through the outcomes it delivers. The key takeaway of this lesson is that your solution is not defined by what you build. It's defined by what your customer experiences. The sharper the outcome, the simpler the solution needs to be. If you're feeling overwhelmed by your own product, that's usually a signal to subtract, not add.